It all started with an envelope. Simple, white, and ordinary at first glance. But that night, it would change everything. I had been home for hours, sitting at the kitchen table, absent-mindedly flipping through old receipts and bills. It was a typical Thursday evening, the kind of evening when you can hear the ticking of the clock and feel the silence stretching out before you. My wife, Delia, wasn't home yet. She often worked late on Thursdays, her job in PR demanding long hours, and I had grown accustomed to these quiet nights alone. But that night felt different. The envelope arrived just as I was cleaning up the kitchen, the soft sound of the doorbell echoing through the house. I wasn't expecting anything, no packages, no letters, nothing. And when I opened the door, there it was, lying on the welcome mat. No name on it, no return address. Just that plain white envelope. I bent down and picked it up, my curiosity piqued. It wasn't thick, just a single sheet of paper inside. I almost tossed it aside, assuming it was junk mail, but something about it made me pause. The seal on the back was broken, like someone had hastily opened it and then resealed it, as if they didn't want it to be noticed. I tore open the envelope, unfolded the paper, and read the first line. Delia has been seeing someone else. My heart stopped. I could feel my pulse racing, a cold sweat forming on the back of my neck. I read the words again, trying to make sense of them. Who would send me this? And why? It was written in neat, deliberate handwriting, a stark contrast to the confusion swirling in my head. The rest of the letter detailed everything. It wasn't just a vague accusation. It was specific. She's been meeting him for months now. You've been blind to it, but I've seen the way she looks at him. The way she smiles when she texts him. He's the one she talks about when you're not around. I could hardly breathe. This couldn't be real, I thought. Delia was the love of my life. We'd been married for over 7 years. I'd never even considered that something like this could happen to me, to us. Yet, here it was, this cold, undeniable truth staring me in the face. I dropped the letter onto the table and walked over to the window. My hands were shaking, my mind racing. I tried to push it out of my head, tell myself it was a sick joke, a misunderstanding. But the words echoed in my mind. She's been seeing someone else. I thought about calling Delia right then, demanding to know the truth, but something stopped me. A gut feeling. Maybe it was fear, or maybe I just needed more time to process it. I didn't want to confront her with nothing but a letter, especially one that came out of nowhere. So I waited. The hours dragged by. I tried to distract myself, to focus on something, anything else, but all I could think about was that letter. What if it was true? What if Delia had been hiding this from me all this time? How could I have missed it? How could she have lied to me for so long? Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I heard the familiar sound of the front door opening. Delia was home. She walked into the kitchen, a smile on her face, but when she saw me standing there, her expression changed. "Hey, what's going on?" she asked, a slight tension in her voice. She had never been good at hiding her emotions. I looked at her, trying to steady my breath. I could feel the weight of the letter in my hand, still crumpled, still shaking from the shock. "Delia," I began, my voice quieter than I intended. "We need to talk." Her smile faltered, and I saw it then, the brief flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. It was as if she knew what was coming. "What's wrong?" she asked again, but this time there was something else in her tone, something guarded. I took a deep breath, holding up the letter. The truth was here, written in black and white, and there was no turning back. "I got this today," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Do you want to explain?" Her face went pale. For a moment, she said nothing. The silence between us felt like an eternity. Then, she took a slow step back, and I could see it. The guilt, the fear. She tried to mask it, but it was obvious. "What is that?" she asked, but I could hear the tremor in her voice. I threw the letter on the table between us. "What does this mean, Delia? Are you seeing someone else?" Her gaze flicked down to the letter, and for a moment, I thought she might break. But then she quickly looked back at me, her eyes hardening, as if she was preparing for something. I don't know what you're talking about," she said, but I could hear the lie in her voice. "Mark, I didn't. Don't lie to me." I snapped, the anger rising inside of me like a wave. "Who is he? How long has this been going on? Why didn't you tell me?" She opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. For a moment, I thought she was going to show me something, to explain herself. But then she hesitated, her thumb hovering over the screen as if she was weighing her options. I felt the room closing in on me. The woman I had loved, trusted, built my life with was standing there, holding something, some secret she had been keeping from me for who knows how long. And all I could do was watch as she struggled to find the words that would either tear us apart or somehow put things back together. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. I stood there, watching Delia, waiting for some kind of explanation. The air in the kitchen felt thick, suffocating. I could hear the soft hum of the refrigerator in the background, but it was drowned out by the racing thoughts in my head. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, staring at the letter on the table, her fingers trembling slightly as she clutched her phone. I didn't know what to say or do. Everything that had once felt certain between us now seemed like a lie. I finally spoke, breaking the silence, my voice shaking despite my efforts to stay calm. "Who is he, Delia?" I couldn't bring myself to say his name, even though I knew I needed to. There was a weight in the air, something unspoken, hanging between us. She let out a shaky breath, her gaze dropping to the floor. I don't know how to explain." Her words were soft, almost as if she was trying to find the right ones, but I wasn't having it. My mind was already filled with images I couldn't erase. The thought of her with someone else, betraying everything we'd built. I took a step toward her, unable to stop myself. "Don't lie to me, Delia. This letter," I pointed to the paper between us, "isn't just a coincidence. You can't pretend this isn't happening. Who is he? How long has this been going on?" She took a deep breath, finally looking up at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. "It's not like that, Mark. I didn't mean for it to happen." She paused, as if struggling with the weight of her own words. I felt a tight knot form in my chest. "Then tell me what it is like," I demanded. "How long have you been seeing him? Was it months? Years?" The silence was unbearable. It felt like time had stopped. The only sound in the room was the beat of my heart pounding in my ears. I watched her lips tremble as she tried to form words, but couldn't. That's when I noticed something odd, something I couldn't ignore. Her hands were still clenched around her phone, and I saw her subtly glancing at the screen, almost as if she was waiting for something. I didn't know if she was waiting for him to text her, or if she was simply looking for a way out of this conversation, but whatever it was, it made the entire situation feel even worse. I felt my patience slipping away. "Who is he?" I repeated, this time louder. "If you've been honest with me, then why is it so hard to tell me?" Delia's eyes flicked nervously to her phone once more. "Mark, please," she whispered, voice cracking. "It's not what you think. I don't want to hurt you." But it was too late. I could feel the hurt deep inside me, gnawing at me, and there was no turning back now. "Then tell me the truth," I said, feeling an ache in my chest that I couldn't shake. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that somehow, this was all a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. She closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them again, there was something different in her gaze. A kind of resignation. And that's when she spoke the words that shattered everything. "I've been seeing Jake," she confessed. The name hit me like a slap. Jake. The one friend I had always trusted her with. The one I had assumed was safe. My world tilted. I never meant for it to go this far. Delia continued, voice low and broken. "But things changed between us. And I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to stop it." I stood frozen, staring at her. I couldn't process what she was saying. "Jake? Of all people, Jake? I should have told you sooner," she added, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of everything falling apart." She paused, waiting for me to respond, but I couldn't find the words. How could I? My mind was overwhelmed with betrayal, anger, and disbelief. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been lying to me all this time. "Is he the reason you've been pulling away?" I asked, my voice cold, though it trembled with emotion. "Is he the reason you've stopped being you with me?" Delia nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Yes," she whispered. "He made me feel alive again. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years." The words stung. I had given everything to this marriage, and she had found someone else to make her feel something I couldn't. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead, I stood there, frozen in the reality of what she had just told me. "How long has this been going on?" I managed to ask, though I already knew the answer. About 6 months, she replied, her voice barely audible. It started as a friendship, and I didn't even realize it was happening until it was too late. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Of me being oblivious, thinking everything was fine. My stomach churned with disgust and anger, but more than anything, I felt utterly betrayed. The one person I trusted more than anyone had shattered that trust in a way I couldn't even begin to process. Why didn't you tell me? I whispered, not sure if I was asking for answers or simply trying to understand how I could have missed it all. She shook her head, tears finally spilling down her face. I was too scared. I didn't know what to do, Mark. I didn't want to hurt you. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest. The room felt suffocating, the air thick with the weight of her confession. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't know what to say next. Everything had changed, and I wasn't sure if it could ever be fixed. The silence between us was unbearable. Her tears fell, each drop punctuating the gravity of what she had just said. I could barely breathe. 6 months, I muttered under my breath. 6 months of betrayal, of lies. It was like someone had taken a knife and twisted it in my chest. I had no idea how to process this. No idea how to even begin understanding why she would do this to me. Delia stepped forward, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. I pulled back instinctively, as if her touch might burn me. Mark, please, I never wanted to hurt you, she whispered, her voice cracking. Then why did you? I snapped, the anger rising inside me faster than I could control. Why did you betray me, Delia? Why didn't you just tell me? Why couldn't we talk about this? I didn't know how to say it, she stammered, looking at the floor in shame. I didn't want to lose you, Mark. I was afraid that you'd leave me if I told you the truth. I stared at her, incredulous. So you thought lying was better? Keeping this a secret was better? She shook her head, but the tears kept falling. I was lost, Mark, and I didn't know how to find my way back to you. I thought, maybe this would help me feel something again. I didn't know what to say. My heart was pounding in my chest, and every breath felt like it was coming from a mile away. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I built a life with, had been hiding something so monumental from me. And now, here she was, standing in front of me, asking for understanding. I loved you, Delia. I still do, I said, my voice quieter now, almost defeated. But you've broken something in me. I don't even know who you are anymore. Her eyes pleaded with me, but I couldn't bring myself to forgive her, not just yet. Not after everything. She'd gone to him. She'd trusted him. And me? I had been living a lie. Please, she begged, don't walk away from me. Let's fix this. Let me make it right. I stood frozen, not knowing what to do. My mind was spinning. I wanted to scream, to ask her how she could throw everything away for something so trivial. But I didn't. Instead, I turned away from her, unable to look at her any longer. The room felt too small, like it was closing in on me. I could feel my chest tightening, the weight of her betrayal suffocating me. I walked toward the door, needing space, needing air. Mark, she called out, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I needed time to think, time to understand how everything had gone so wrong. I stepped outside, the cold night air hitting my skin like a slap. I didn't know how to handle this. I didn't know how to fix it. All I knew was that the life I thought I had built with Delia was now shattered into a million pieces. I walked aimlessly, my mind running wild with thoughts. Was there any coming back from this? Could I ever look at her the same way again? Could I trust her again? I didn't have the answers. All I knew was that I couldn't face her right now. I needed space. I needed to breathe. But as I walked, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, still lost in thought, not really expecting anything. It was a message. From Delia. Please, don't do this. Let's talk. I need you to understand. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to throw the phone away, to never speak to her again. But the other part, the part that was still clinging to the life we had, wanted to hear her out. I stopped walking and stared at the message. Would talking really change anything? Would I hear what I needed to hear to make this all make sense? I didn't know. But one thing was certain. This was just the beginning. I stood still for what felt like an eternity, staring at the message Delia had sent. My thumb hovered over the screen, unsure of whether I should respond or delete it. The cold night air wrapped around me, biting at my skin, but it did little to numb the sting of betrayal still burning in my chest. I wanted to ignore it. I wanted to pretend like I hadn't seen it. but something inside me couldn't let it go. I still loved her, at least the version of her I had known. And maybe that's what kept me from walking away entirely. I read the message again. Please, don't do this. Let's talk. I need you to understand. Her words were pleading, desperate. I could feel the weight of her emotions behind them, but they didn't make the pain go away. If anything, it made it worse. She was asking me to understand, to accept what had happened. But could I? Could I really listen to her reasons, knowing everything I now knew? I began to pace, my mind torn between two extremes. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to try to make sense of it all. The other part screamed at me to run, to never look back. How could I sit down and have a conversation with someone who had broken my trust so completely? I knew I couldn't avoid her forever, but I wasn't ready to face her just yet. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I put my phone back in my pocket, took a deep breath, and kept walking. I walked aimlessly for hours. The city streets blurred in front of me, the lights flickering like distant stars. I was lost, not just in the world around me, but in my own mind. The thoughts kept coming, one after another, faster than I could process them. Had I missed the signs? Was I blind to her unhappiness? Could I have done something differently? I finally found myself sitting on a park bench, staring out at the empty playground in front of me. The cold had settled in my bones, but it wasn't the weather that made me shiver. It was the realization that everything had changed. I pulled out my phone again. This time, there was another message from Delia. I'm sorry, Mark. I never wanted to hurt you. Please don't give up on us. Her words hit me like a punch to the stomach. How could I even begin to process all of this? Was it too late for us? Could I ever forgive her? I took a deep breath, staring at the screen, trying to clear my head. I couldn't make this decision now. Not in the middle of the night. Not when I was feeling so raw. I needed time. I needed space to think, to breathe. I texted her back, my fingers trembling as I typed. I can't talk right now. I need some time. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The message was simple, but it felt like a wall between us. A wall I didn't know how to tear down. I put the phone away and stared up at the stars. The city felt so distant, so quiet, as if everything had paused. But I knew the storm wasn't over. It was just beginning, and I had no idea where it would take me. The days that followed felt like a blur. I went through the motions, work, meals, walking through the house like a ghost, barely speaking to Delia. Every time I saw her, I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The woman I loved, the woman who had been my partner for so long, was no longer the person I thought she was. I couldn't look at her without seeing the betrayal etched in her eyes. It had been a few days since I told her I needed space. She hadn't pressed me further, respecting my request for silence. But silence didn't bring peace. It only amplified the questions I couldn't answer, the thoughts I couldn't silence. I tried to keep myself busy. I'd dive into work, throw myself into anything that could distract me from the truth that kept clawing at me. But every time I came home, every time I saw her, I couldn't ignore it. The weight of what was happening between us felt heavier each day. One evening, as I was returning from a late meeting, I found Delia sitting on the couch in the living room, her eyes swollen from crying. The sight of her, so broken, did something to me. I hadn't seen her this vulnerable in years. It was like a punch to the gut. For a moment, I forgot about the lies, the betrayal. All I saw was the woman I had once adored. Mark, she said softly, her voice shaky. Can we talk? I know you need time, but I can't keep pretending like everything is fine. I stood there, frozen in the doorway. The last thing I wanted to do was talk, but I couldn't just ignore her forever. Maybe it was the desperate look in her eyes, or maybe it was the part of me that still loved her, but I walked toward her and sat down on the couch. I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice low. I don't know how to move forward from this. She reached for my hand, her touch gentle but full of need. I'm so sorry, Mark. I never wanted to hurt you. I made a terrible mistake. I was selfish and weak, and I can't undo it, but I need you to know that I love you. I never stopped loving you. Her words were sincere. I could hear the pain in her voice, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. Then why Jake? I asked, the question I hadn't been able to ask before. Why him? Why not talk to me? Delia lowered her gaze, her fingers tracing the fabric of the couch. Jake was someone I could talk to. He was there when I felt like you weren't. I didn't mean for it to go this far, Mark. I didn't mean to fall for him. The way she said it made it sound so casual, like falling for someone was just an accident. like she hadn't chosen to let it happen. But I knew better than that. Betrayal didn't happen by accident. It happened when you ignored the red flags, when you let yourself cross lines you should have never crossed. So what now? I asked, finally looking at her, seeing the woman I had loved, but also the one who had shattered everything. Do we just pretend like it didn't happen? Like I can just forgive you and forget? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hope and guilt. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I don't expect you to forget what I've done. But I want to make it right. I want to fix us. Please, give me the chance to prove that I can be the woman you deserve again. Her plea hit me like a wave. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that somehow, things could go back to the way they were. But deep down, I knew that wasn't possible. Once trust was broken, it wasn't easy to rebuild. I don't know if I can do that, Delia, I whispered. I don't know if I can trust you again. I thought I knew you. I thought we were okay. But now, I don't even know who you are anymore. The pain in her eyes was almost unbearable to watch. I'm still me, Mark. I made a mistake, and I hate myself for it. But I'm here. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. Her words hung in the air, and I realized then that I wasn't just fighting her betrayal. I was fighting my own fear. Fear that I couldn't trust her again. Fear that everything we had built was a lie. The silence stretched between us. Delia was waiting for me to say something, anything, but I couldn't bring myself to speak. How could I? What was left to say when everything I thought I knew about my life was now in question? And so, we sat there, together but not really together, the weight of what had happened settling between us like a wall that neither of us knew how to break down. The future felt uncertain, like a path obscured by fog, and I didn't know where it would lead. But one thing was clear, this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something that neither of us could have ever anticipated. The days after that conversation felt like an endless loop. I couldn't escape the weight of what Delia had confessed. We were barely speaking, yet the tension in the house was so thick it felt suffocating. I went to work, came home, and tried to act normal, but nothing was normal anymore. Delia tried. She made dinner, she reached out to me, but it was always forced. I could see the effort in her eyes, but it wasn't enough to make things feel right. I still couldn't shake the image of her with Jake. And every time she touched me or tried to talk to me, it felt like a reminder of the betrayal. One evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone, when something caught my eye. A notification popped up on my screen. It was a message from Delia. I had turned off the notifications for her messages days ago, not wanting to be bombarded with constant reminders. But this one was different. It was from her work account, an email titled, "Final Decision Regarding the Project." I clicked on it out of curiosity. At first, it looked like a standard work email. But as I scrolled down, I noticed something strange. At the bottom of the email, there was a long chain of messages. And one of them, dated a week before everything came crashing down, caught my attention. It was a message from Jake. "How about we finally make this official? No more hiding. I want you, Delia." My breath caught in my throat. My eyes went wide. Was this just a professional email, or was she hiding something else? I felt my heart race. Why was she hiding this? It wasn't a work-related message, it was personal. Something between her and Jake that she didn't want me to see. I stared at the screen, my mind spiraling. How long had this been going on behind my back? How deep was the web of lies she had spun? I felt a rush of panic surge through me. But before I could process it fully, Delia walked into the kitchen. "Mark?" She froze when she saw the look on my face. She must have noticed the screen, the look of disbelief. I didn't say anything. My fingers trembled as I scrolled back up to the email subject. Delia took a step forward, her voice shaky. "Mark, please, it's not what you think." I turned to her, my face cold. "Then what is it? Tell me the truth." Her face paled. She was silent for a moment, her eyes darting between the screen and me. Then, slowly, she took a deep breath. "I never wanted you to find that. It was a private conversation. Jake was just what?" I interrupted, standing up now, my anger starting to boil. "This isn't just a conversation, Delia. This is about you and him. About you lying to me all this time." Her shoulders slumped, her head hanging low. She couldn't meet my eyes. "I never meant to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I was at a breaking point. I didn't know if I could keep going like this. I didn't know if I even wanted to. Everything she had told me, all the promises she'd made about fixing things, felt like empty words now. I walked out of the kitchen without another word, my mind spinning with everything I had just learned. The weight of the truth was unbearable. The worst part wasn't just the affair, it was the way she kept trying to hide it. How much had she kept from me? I didn't want to know, but I had already seen too much. I couldn't sit in the house any longer. The walls were closing in, and I needed to escape. I grabbed my coat and walked out the door, not really knowing where I was going, just needing to put some distance between myself and Delia. The cold night air hit me like a slap, but I didn't care. It was better than suffocating in the house with the overwhelming tension. I walked aimlessly for a while, trying to clear my head, but every step felt like it was leading me back to Delia, back to the mess we were in. The truth hung over me like a shadow I couldn't outrun. I ended up at a small bar, the kind of place that was dimly lit and quiet, where people went to be left alone. I took a seat at the counter and ordered a drink, hoping the alcohol would numb the thoughts racing through my mind. But it didn't. Nothing seemed to make it go away. As I sat there, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I knew it was Delia before I even looked. I'd been avoiding her calls, but this time, I answered. "Mark?" Her voice cracked on the other end. "Please, can we talk? I need to explain." I didn't know if I was ready to listen, but I couldn't keep running. "Not anymore. I'm at the bar," I said, my voice flat. "Come here if you want to talk." There was a long pause on the other end before she finally spoke. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. I hung up and put the phone down on the counter. My hands were shaking, but I tried to steady them. I wasn't sure what I was hoping for, some sort of closure? An explanation? Or was I just looking for the words that would make it all make sense again? But deep down, I knew nothing would be the same. When Delia walked into the bar 10 minutes later, her eyes were red from crying. She stood at the door for a moment, scanning the room, before spotting me. The moment our eyes met, everything inside me tensed. I hated how she still had this effect on me, even after everything. She walked toward me slowly, her steps hesitant. "Mark, I don't know where to begin," she said quietly as she took the seat next to me. I didn't look at her at first. I couldn't. Instead, I stared at my drink, swirling it around in the glass. The silence between us felt heavy, like something that couldn't be undone. "Start with the truth," I said, my voice cold. She took a deep breath, and for the first time, she seemed truly vulnerable. "I didn't know how to tell you," she began. "Jake wasn't just someone I could talk to. He made me feel something I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't about you, Mark. It wasn't about not loving you. I got lost." I turned to look at her, but I couldn't bring myself to feel pity. I couldn't feel anything other than the sharp sting of betrayal. "So what now?" I asked. "Do you expect me to just forgive you? To pretend like none of this happened?" She shook her head, tears starting to well up in her eyes again. "No, I don't expect that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I know what I've done, Mark, and I know it's too late for some things. But I want to try. I want to show you that I can change. I can make it right." Her words sounded sincere, but part of me wondered if it was too little, too late. I wanted to believe her, but could I? Could I trust her again after everything she had done? I took a deep breath, letting the weight of the moment settle over me. "You can't just erase what happened, Delia. You can't undo it." "I know," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I don't expect you to forget it. I want to make things right. Please, Mark. I love you." The words, "I love you," hit me like a gut punch. I still loved her too, but it wasn't enough anymore. Not when trust had been shattered so completely. I looked away, unable to meet her gaze anymore. "I don't know if I can do this," I muttered, more to myself than to her. "I don't know if I can go back to who we were. It's hard to see past the lies." Delia reached out, her hand brushing against mine. But I pulled away, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to hold on to something that had already slipped through my fingers. "I don't know either," I admitted. "But I can't keep living like this. Something has to change." She nodded, tears silently falling down her face. "I'll do whatever it takes. I swear." I stood up, my heart heavy in my chest. I didn't have the answers. I didn't know if I could forgive her. But I couldn't stay here, not like this. "I need time, Delia," I said, my voice breaking. "I need time to figure this out. I need time to decide if there's anything left for us." I turned and walked away, leaving her behind in the dimly lit bar, her tears the only thing that remained in the silence. I didn't know where this was going. All I knew was that I was standing at the edge of a choice, and I didn't know if I was strong enough to make it. It had been a few weeks since that night at the bar. I'd spent countless days replaying every conversation, every moment that led us here. Delia and I had taken the time apart that I needed, and in that silence, I had found clarity. It wasn't easy. There were days I felt like I was drowning in the weight of the past, and there were nights I wondered if it was even worth it to rebuild what we had, or walk away and start fresh. But somewhere in the chaos of the emotions and hurt, I realized something. I wasn't ready to give up on us. Not yet. I still loved her. Despite everything that had happened, despite the lies and betrayal, there was a part of me that still believed in the woman I had married. And when Delia reached out again, this time with a calm, determined voice, I knew it was time to face the truth. Not the one of broken promises, but the one of redemption. She had changed. She had taken responsibility for what she'd done. But more importantly, she had shown me that she was willing to fight for our relationship. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. We sat down, face to face, for the first time in weeks. The tension was still there, but there was also something new, something raw, but hopeful. Delia's eyes were no longer filled with guilt. Instead, I saw sincerity. She didn't just want to fix things. She wanted to build a new foundation for us, one that was stronger than the one we had before. I know I hurt you, Mark, she began, her voice soft but steady. But I've been doing the work. I've been seeing a therapist. I'm learning how to be the person I want to be, for myself and for you. I can't change what happened, but I want to show you that I'm worth fighting for. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't going to be easy. Trust wasn't something you could just give back. It had to be earned, slowly, over time. But I was willing to try. I was willing to take that first step towards something new. I've been thinking a lot about us, I said, my voice steady. And I know it won't be easy. But I'm willing to try too. If we're going to do this, we have to be honest. We have to rebuild everything from the ground up. And it will take time. Delia nodded, her eyes filled with relief. I know. I'm ready for that. Whatever it takes. And just like that, something shifted between us. There was no magic solution. No quick fix. But there was a spark of hope that had been missing for so long. We took it one day at a time. The small gestures became significant again, laughing together over dinner, sharing stories, even the quiet moments where we just held each other. Slowly, the cracks began to heal. We learned how to communicate better, how to listen, how to be patient. Months passed, and with every passing day, we began to rebuild the trust that had been shattered. It wasn't perfect, and it never would be. But what mattered was that we were committed to each other, to making things work. One evening, Delia and I sat on the couch, sipping wine, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light around the room. I looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in a long time, and I realized something. I had never truly given up on her. I'm proud of us, I said, my voice filled with sincerity. She smiled, her eyes lighting up. Me too. We're not perfect, Mark, but we're stronger now. We've made it through the worst. And I believe in us. I believe in this. And I did too. We weren't the same as before, but we were something new, something better. We had learned from our mistakes, and we were finally moving forward. Together. It wasn't just a second chance. It was a new beginning.